All right, like I said, this is as far as the artwork of this conversation is going to go, and we'll hop right into like I put it in air quotes, right? Like lead generation. My whole intent with this topic for this class specifically is to kind of do some busting in a way, right? And to ultimately like bring clarity on what lead generation is, and therefore like what your job needs to be. But I just, you know, I'm pretty firm that like over the years I've come to realize that like agents, have this it's like a dirty four-letter word, lead generation, right? It's just something that you cringe when you hear a lot for a lot of people anyway, right? And when I mean I just got back from family reunion in Vegas last week and like that's all Gary Keller. That's not all, but like my takeaway from family reunion was just like back to the basics. Like they're called 2025, the year of the appointment, and everything, top of the sales funnel, starting with your database to how you lead generate to it and to the appointments that you create from it. Like that's really all that matters. So like coming from arguably the most powerful person in real estate history, and that's, hey, let's host a convention with tens of thousands of people there. And this is the message, nothing that anybody's ever heard before or never heard before, right? I think it's important to provide like a clarity to so that everybody can have an approach as to how to lead generate versus just hearing at a training and not really knowing, okay, what the hell do I do with that, right? Like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to lead generate, but how? And ultimately, my goal for you today is to be able to leave here with some ideas and an approach as to how or how you can refine your current approach. But ultimately, I think, a couple things like your job is just to communicate with people and to communicate with people in order to build relationships to where when they need something in real estate, you're the person they think of and remember. Okay. Another way to say that is like your job is to have these relationships that when the time comes for them to have a need or a want to buy, sell, invest, or even rent real estate, that you're the person that they think about. How you're going to get to be that person that they think about is through communicating. So replace anytime you hear the word calls, another air quote thing, lead generation, just replace that with communication. Would be my advice. Okay. And how are you going to communicate with people in order to achieve that objective of you want to have that relationship solid to where when they need something, you're the person they think of. So a lot of you have heard me say this before, but like to be a smartass, like if I have a smoke signal outside this building right here and somebody else has one on the other side of the highway, and we're both firing off smoke signals and communicating and having conversation that way, it counts. Obviously, that's not going to be the lesson of the class here today, but just to like bring some, shitty humor to the situation of like, hey guys, you just need to find ways to communicate with a database. And database topics are kind of a different class, different day, but ultimately like all the people that you can build into a system to communicate with, like that ends up being your business to lead generate to a database systematically. The system part would be consistently and having an operation to it to where it becomes easy and you don't have to remember. But ultimately, like let's work on the mindset around this intimidating term of lead generation and making calls and do that by like replacing it with communicating, interacting. I don't know what other general words am I missing besides communication and interactions, right? But it's just how you get in the conversation, get in the communicate, and again, a conversation, it's not always a phone call. How are you going to have a relationship with somebody? Because here's the opportunity, guys, that you have to understand. Like, and I don't mean to like put on tinfoil. Like society has evolved over the years, in recent 15, 20 years, that we think we have relationships with people just by scrolling through their shit on social media. And maybe going a step further to like their post or whatever, right? Like, oh, they just had a baby and I like their post and like they can. I think that's like society has evolved to where like that's how a lot of our relationships are this day. And the opportunity to go old school, you want to think of it that way, and just get back to being friendly and to like actually speaking, talking, texting, sure, take it a step further, DM and social media, meeting for coffee, happy hour, whatever, dinner, stopping by their house like that. There's a I don't think it's necessarily generational. I think it's like a society as a whole has evolved in the last 20 years to where that's not necessarily how people interact with each other anymore. So that becomes your opportunity to capitalize on. And finding a way to do it comfortably and consistently is ultimately the objective. And that's a lot about, what we'll talk about today. But that's your opportunity if you want to think of it that way. Where like this world has changed and people are communicating less as a result, even though the access and the information available is better than ever. But the actual personal relationships that are held are less. Make sense? This last line here, like this is the comfortable line, right? Like start with the lowest friction, easiest activity that you can. If you're committing to lead generating and you're going by the book and want to buy the book and you want, I use a lot of air quotes, so bear with me throughout the day here, and you want to make phone calls, you can't pick up the phone to do it, there's friction there. That's okay. Do something else. Start by texting. If you can't pick up the phone to call somebody, if it's not, you don't have the muscles yet, do something else. Don't do smoke signals. I was kidding. But there's, again, back to just the technology world that we live in at this point, like there's so many different ways to communicate. And let's maybe not 20 years, but rewind the tape 40 years for those that are old enough to remember, like it's no longer rotary phone on the wall with a freaking line on it that you can only talk to one person at a time. Like that was the only form of communication back in that day. Huh? I remember. I'm still a puppy, but I remember. The young people in the room, like, you have no idea what I'm talking about, right? And that's okay. But like we lived in a day and age where like you weren't able to text people, or the previous day and age. You weren't able to text, email even. Like fax machines blew people's minds at the moment or when it first came out, right? So like all the evolution of communication, I guess, is the history lesson we're having right now. It's important to like understand that, that's you would think that people have better relationships than ever, but at least my opinion is we don't. So that's your opportunity. And it's a huge opportunity because yes, like you will never hear anything from me, but we are in a sales business. If you think you're in anything different, you're wrong. This is sales. Your income depends on how much you sell. However, you could focus on selling to the relationships that you have. And you're going to build the relationships based on how well you communicate and interact with people. But so far, I didn't cover, the difference between working on the business and in the business. That's a sort of a maybe a KW thing, but probably not. But like sort of a cliche term. But anytime you hear work on the business, that's what you're doing to create opportunities for business. Working in the business would be what you're doing to convert those opportunities, like going home, writing offers, negotiating, processing the paperwork to get paid, stuff of that nature. So they're both equally, well, not gonna say equally, they're both important, and you need to excel in the business to ultimately, excel in this career. However, you should be able to get to a point quickly to where that's sort of like second nature and you don't even need to have to think about it. Just what you do to provide great service and, what you're doing during a showing or, what you're doing during the transaction. Like find a way to really be systematic with that to where it's just like you don't have to think about it. You don't have to necessarily apply the effort. That may take up a good bulk of the time spent, but your effort and like getting uncomfortable and figuring out how to excel is going to be on the business, working on the business, and everything that you do there should be centered around like where's the next opportunity coming from. So again, we're in sales. Where's your next lead coming from? Where's your next transaction coming from? You wake up unemployed every single morning. So you either go get a job that day, meaning go get a new client to work with or a new lead to nurture in order to be able to work with them, or you remained unemployed that day. Even if you have all the pending business going on that you can handle, all the in the business work that you can handle, if you didn't create a new opportunity that day, you didn't move the needle. That's the mentality. I'm going to touch on marketing because this the marketing concepts that are out there are great, but that when we talk communication, like we've talked about it so far, we're talking direct, two-way. You're having an interaction or a conversation some way, somehow, right? Marketing is more so like just the touches that end up, like it counts, don't get me wrong, but like you're not in a direct interaction when you're marketing. Okay, so social media, anything that somebody sees while they're scrolling, that's great. And I don't know science of the brain, but whatever shit's fizzling up there whenever somebody sees something on social media from you, it counts. And the more that you do both, the better. And the more that you do both at a high level in terms of lead generation and marketing, the better. Because, like think about a postcard in the mail. People get their mail. It's not like they just immediately throw everything in the garbage. So they have to process it, right? They get through their bills. They get, something from a family member, a birthday card in the mail. I bet there's money in it, for a kid or whatever. And then it's like, oh, postcard from Jason. That's cool. Trash. But like that processing, right? Like neurons or whatever nerve endings are firing, whatever's happening out there, it's happening in all kinds. And it all works, the compound effect, like how compound interest works. Think of it that way. And that's why in the MREA, the 36 touch plan is ultimately, the science of like if you're in front of people 36 times a year through marketing and personal connections, really tough to not be remembered at that point for the people that you're doing and executing that way. That, don't get me wrong, they'll have a choice whether they want to use you or not. That's always a challenge. But you're going to be remembered at that point. At least that's what the science of it all says. So it's a combination, and MREA is just 4 personal connections a year plus 32 marketing touches. So when you hear 36 touch plan, don't say, oh my God, call everybody in my database 36 times a year. That's not it. It's too much. People don't want it. Let's understand something.
They're not thinking of it.
Well, let's have uh, to have an awkward conversation. Not a blanket statement, but a mindset thing. Guess what, guys? They don't want to talk to you either. It's not that they don't like you. They want to get through this awkward conversation as quickly as they can. Now, I'm not saying that's how it is all the time. Okay? Because if you have great relationships and there's plenty of people that you know that are genuinely looking forward to hearing from you and glad that you connected with them, right? But for the most part, they got their own life going on too. So it's a level playing field. So understand that to allow you to get into this action. Well, you have to be lead generation based and marketing enhanced, meaning the bulk of your action and effort and purpose has to come from lead generation activities in what you're doing. And all that is to directly communicate with people. And yes, you should have marketing going on for your business as well. I could make the argument that, and for agents that have been around the block for decades, like there's probably still plenty of them that might have zero marketing for their business. But I guarantee you they have great communication with their people. So it is possible. I'm not encouraging it, but and there's I'm sure there's plenty of examples where it could be debunked where it's like, I don't lead generate at all and all I do is market. It's a really tough road. And the margins are probably pretty thin in terms of the dollars that you need to spend to market at a high level to not have to directly communicate with people or to get business. Now, marketing can bring in a lot of opportunities to lead generate too. So they can work hand in hand together. But just point of this topic is like, don't think that you can get away with only marketing on social media or email campaigns or stuff in the mail and not also attempt to create those focused conversations and interactions with people. Great marketing does not replace the need to directly communicate. What good marketing can allow you to get into an easier way of communicating. So there's a balance, and yeah, ideally be great at both. If you're gonna like go all in and like I'm only gonna be great at one thing, lead gen is it. Lead generation based and marketing enhanced is something that we talk about a lot around here. All right, so how do I make a call? Because that's I get it. A lot of training is, hey, go out and lead generate, go out and call your people, right? How do I do that? What I'll say is like, the word comfortable is often counterintuitive in coaching and growth. But like finding a way for you to get comfortable to get into action is the key. So again, like I talked about earlier in terms of, if you're anti picking up the phone and dialing it and talking to people live, could be fine if you find another way to do it. So in that case, it's probably going to be texting, social media DMs, maybe texting to get appointments, to meet with people in person, that is, to then let the interaction and the relationship play out. But ultimately, you got to decide what it is that you're willing to commit to and be accountable to in terms of getting into a consistent action that you can then measure the results from and prove that it's working, or find out what to do to improve it. Or, you know, if so much time goes by and there's nothing, then you may need to scrap it and try something else. But you got to decide what that activity is going to look like that you're going to be able to get consistent with. And this is a volume game, guys. Lead generation. If you've done the economic model exercise, the way that I would train on it is you're doing really well if 5% of the time the people that you talk to or interact with or have conversations with or communicate with, 5% of the time that leads to an appointment to consult with them on their business, you're doing well. You're doing good. And there's plenty of agents that I coach that you'd be surprised, from a perception of their business, that it's less than 5%. And that's okay. It's just knowing those conversion ratios becomes key, so that you can know what level of activity produces what result that you need. And again, 2025, straight from Gary Keller, it's the year of the appointment. So in order to get appointments, you have to lead generate and talk to people. So high volume game, meaning 95% of the time you're gonna fail. It's not failure. You're either planting seeds if you're starting, or you're watering the seeds you've already planted if it's the next time you talk to them. But your job is to do that throughout your entire career. As soon as you stop, the treadmill you're walking on, that's the business. Without constant relationships kept with people, there's no reason for anybody to think that you're still in real estate if you haven't talked to them in years, because it's not guaranteed that they're getting your marketing touches. That's another reason why marketing, isn't the only approach, because not everybody's in tune with their email. What if you have the wrong address that you're mailing to? Believe it or not everybody has social media and scrolls through it for hours on end to guarantee to see whatever you posted, even if it's 5 times a week. So really, like, this is the inner game that you have to play, right? Like, you gotta do some reflection and analyzation to decide what you're willing to commit to in order to lead generate. And my thing would be, like, if you're committed to something and you're doing it by design to a plan, and consistent with acting on that plan or taking the actions from that plan, stay on course to, prove that it's right. And if somebody tells you that you're doing it wrong, but you can prove the results, they're wrong. If you don't have the proof of the results yet, but you're taking the actions that you need to commit to taking, I guarantee you that's more than yeah, ballparking, but 95% of agents don't live this lifestyle, right? And instead, the game plan is like either, or the typical agent is like, I'm gonna sprinkle it in here or there, and I made some contacts once this week, feeling good about it. Or just I mean, the failure rate is what it is in this industry because people think like they're just going to get all this business from osmosis. I made that mistake earlier in my career. Like I was young and dumb and wasn't part of this company with the resources available to where it's like, it's my friends and family. I'm gonna send a letter out, let them know I'm in real estate. If you love me, like, wait for the phone to learn. Nobody cares. Like again, nobody cares what you got going on. They don't, gotta understand that. People got life is hard, right? Nobody gives a damn about your real estate business. Stop thinking that they do and that's going to take care of everything for you. You have to provide the value and just understand that a lot of the value can be provided through relationships. And we'll say there is a hierarchy of communication, I call it, right? So like anytime you're able to look somebody in the eye, face to face, in person, whatever setting it is, that's always going to be most effective for building, solidifying, furthering a relationship, whatever you want to call it. So that's always choice one in terms of what's most effective. Choice two would be live but not in person, so phone call, FaceTime, Zoom. What am I missing? That would be about it, right? In that category. Third one, and probably the most popular at this point, day and age, anything messaging bit. Text, DMs, whatever the kids are doing, it all counts. You're going to be, this hierarchy, so to speak, is based on effectiveness and then also response. See somebody in the grocery store, you're walking up on each other. If you walk up to them and try to start a conversation, it'd be pretty rare and awkward that they walk away and dodge it. So the response rate decreases. And make live phone calls, texting, overall response rate is, I guess, debatable. But I do think we live in a world where like the phone doesn't ring. And you got to be careful with this because when the phone does ring, kind of a default setting for people is like, is something wrong? So with that said, there's a strategy. This was a takeaway for me from Family Reunion. Phil Jones, who's actually going to be coming here June, I believe, to Canandaigua. Like this guy's hot. Definitely go to that. How did he phrase it? Like again, you're calling somebody. It's like who this could be? The hospital. I don't know who this number is, right? You better pick it up. Kids are in school, whatever it is, and then you're on the other line. Versus, like, set the stage. Okay, I got something I want to talk to you about. You're going to be available. Yeah, it's not warm. Wouldn't call that necessarily an appointment, right? But you have the ability to where like now they're expecting your call. Now they're agreeing to talk to you, and you haven't just sabotaged them through the phone. So that could be, a hack to implement. If you want to get phone calls in tomorrow, text who you want to call today and see if they got a minute. So, how to think about this? I touched on it in terms of the accountability concept and the measurability type stuff, but you got to decide what you're going to do, and then you got to set a standard on it. Now, a standard, a way to think of it is like, I did not do my job today, this week, this month, whatever. If you don't reach that controllable element that you've set for yourself. So a standard would be, I'm going to talk on the phone live with 20 people this week. Standard should be SMART. the acronym SMART: specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, repeatable, and time bound. I'm going to talk with 20 people this week. I'm going to talk live on the phone with 20 people this week is very smart versus I'm going to attempt to talk to people this week. And by reaching a standard, you're reaching, the measurable of the activity that you're deciding on. Right. So like my standard is to attempt to contact 5 people in my database to meet in person this week. Should have taken the word attempt out. Like I'm going to meet with 5 people in person for coffee this week. It's a standard. Week gets done. You can look at that standard. Did I do it or did I not? Pass fail. Standard should be pass fail. Right? In the sense of like you're able to easily decide like I met the standard or I didn't. And if you didn't, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. You just now have awareness to what you're doing next week to make up for it. Because if your standard, your goal was 5, and you 5 a week, and you did 3, how many you need to do next week? That's a business. If you're living that type of lifestyle, that's a business. To where you're measuring your results, you're measuring the gap. If you're exceeding the standard, you're looking really closely at the results, make sure that it's working. Now you're running a business. Short of that, it's tough to call it a business. Now, what I mean by that is like think of a corporation. And let's just go to the top, like a publicly traded company. Like there's the SEC. You don't have a choice but to track stuff and report it. You're going to jail if you don't, or if you do it the wrong way, or you're shut down. And that's a business. Major corporation, publicly traded company. Below that, like any decent sized company has financials and a financial department and a CFO. And very few agents, I mean, it's more than a few, I guess, but very few real estate agent business owners actually run a business with even a P&L, profit and loss statement, much less knowing the leading indicators that get to a point of the results of the P&L. And being able to tap into what you're doing activity wise for your business is key. Get into it, find out what to say and how to bring value to their personal life and real estate life. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to my notes from family reunion. One of the classes, Jason Abrams and Cody Gibson, a couple rock stars, KW Land, and it was kind of fun. I think this was actually live streamed. Did anybody see it? Yep. It was Wednesday. It was Wednesday. It's last Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday. Yep. It would have been evening because it was I think it was like 2:30 in the afternoon. Biggest time, so it would have been like 5:30. Anyway, it was kind of cool because it was like the two of them had 3 minutes each. And what KW has done, guys, KW Connect, okay, is like a resource page for you. So you can go in there and search any topic and it'll come up with a bunch of materials to learn from and consume. So big push that KW has made in the last couple of years, at least, is like 1-page playbooks they call, and there's a ton of them. But just taking, how other real estate agents have built their business, or elements of how they've built their business, and documenting it, playbooking it, really sharing it with the world. It's out there.
Did you attach this to something?
No, but email me, so Mancuso Jason at kw.com, and I could share my notes from family reunion. This will be buried in there towards the end. But so anyway, this class was the two of these guys, high energy guys. They had 3 minutes each to go over the playbook, and they did 20 of them. I don't know if they got through all 20, but that was the attempt anyway. So it was like rapid fire. Like, let me tell you about this idea, run with it from here. So I'll go over. What I'm doing right now is to give you some outside the box ideas of how to get into communication and interactions with people. And before I dive into here, like I'll tell you like what, a model that we take advantage of for our team is client events. Goal is to host 4 client events a year. But one, there's your 4 touches a year, 4 personal connections. All you need to do is call them and invite them to the event. See if they can come. No problem if you can't. 2, you can get 2, 3, 5, maybe even more touches per event, marketing wise. On top of that, personal connection. Maybe there's even more personal connections because maybe you called them 3 weeks before, called them the day before to remind them, spoke with them both times, saw them at the event the next day, called them a couple days later. And so much for coming. Now, here's the thing. I haven't mentioned it yet. This is all a relationship play. And I'm focusing on comfortable activities to get you in interactions and conversations with people. So client events, community, this was another thing from Family Reunion, like replace client event with community event. Why do you have to restrict it to clients? If you're doing events, what's your attendance rate from your invite list, right? If you're having events where there's constantly 100 people there, like, tough budget to do much more than that, like, fine, great, it's awesome. But if you go all out on an event, 5 people show up. Well, you could have opened it up to your entire database and, been at capacity for 25 people. Came up. Plus, client implies sales, implies business, and not everybody wants to be sold to. Well, let's just say people don't want to be sold to. Versus just, hey, here's a free ticket to a Red Wings game. We'll be there. We'd love it if you could come. No strings attached. That sort of dynamic. The interactions that you can get off of that. That's one example. So I'll roll through some of these. 50 first dates. This one team has, what do they have to do? They have to do, so it would be 3. Yeah, 3. They have to do a breakfast a week, a lunch a week, and a dinner a week. Breakfast is for new people that you're trying to convert. Lunch is for past clients or existing clients that you want to get deeper with. Dinner is like VIPs. 50 first dates, meaning you do this, say 50 times a year, a couple of weeks off. Like, you've now had 150 close personal interactions throughout the year with people. Be careful, don't do the same person every quarter, month, or whatever, right? But you could get through 150 people in your database per year and meet up with them. Doesn't even necessarily mean that you have to buy. Keep that in mind, guys. If you're facilitating the happy hour amongst friends that, have lost touch over the years, doesn't mean that you need to pick up the tab. Be the gatherer. Right? If it's a past client, you invite them to lunch, yeah, buy them lunch. You probably made a lot of money off their transaction, so buy them a sandwich. Right? But if it's something you haven't worked with and the intent isn't necessarily to invite them to lunch to like pitch them real estate. Hey, the reason I wanted to bring you here is because I got this great new listing down the street and you should buy it. Like that's weird. So keep that in mind budget wise. But that's that whole thing is like we are getting real deep with those, lunch, dinner, breakfast dates, so to speak. And like it's, I know they're the most human form of lead generation. Right? Because like you breaking bread with somebody doesn't get much, much closer than that as far as that hierarchy of maybe the first thing should be eating with somebody. Reverse bold 100. That's basically like, okay, what are you going to do to get 100 people to call you in a day? A bold 100 for anybody that hasn't taken bold is like going out and go talk to 100 people a day. You get a little thin, but it's tough to do. It's tough to do. You could do it if you're at a sporting event and say you're working a concession stand at your kid's sporting event, you may be able to do it. But doing things that get your phone to ring certain time, certain day of the week, certain promotion around it. Be a reverse bold 100. Skip the divorce specialist. It was kind of a cool story, but basically this agent was divorced, recognized that there was, divorce attorneys, are kind of lost when it comes to real estate and don't have a lot of them anyway, don't have great connections for referrals. So this agent built a massive business just by going out and well, first she actually was in California. She started a class like that got accredited for the bar association or whatever for like CEYs for attorneys around divorce and real estate, and then just went office to office wherever she's at and built those relationships. So front yard parties, this agent, like where he lives and therefore his farm that he was going to market and lead generate to, committed to just hosting a party in his front yard every so often, to where like people would just pull up and like what's going on here, and like it was just like adult heaven. Like he got to the point where like he would have babysitters for the kids so the adults could be wined and dined, and there was like waitresses with appetizer trays running around. So keep in mind these great elaborate ideas that come with a budget. You don't have to go there. The point is like, what stops you from being the barbecue host on a Saturday afternoon in the summer in your neighborhood? It's a huge, that's your farm. Talk about farming, farming a neighborhood. Like if the discussion is anything but the neighborhood that you live in, to start with anyway, why? You're gonna get in your car and go walk your dog somebody else's neighborhood? You're there. So, being able to develop those relationships, and then again, the whole notion here is like if you're remembered, well, like this guy in the neighborhood throws those awesome parties. Oh yeah, he's in real estate too, and we need to move. Like, dude, thanks for all the food over the years and the good time. You're up. Dinner parties, same type of concept, investment, property. So this is more of a marketing type thing, but it would lead to lead generation where this agent, simple postcard. Hi, my name is Heidi and I want to buy your property. Seller seminars, vendor partnerships and using that to get into conversations. Like when I say be the real estate resource, be the resource for all things roof over their head and land that their home sits on. Make that known, like, hey, don't go to Google. Come to me. I got a plumber if your sink's leaking. I got a roofer if you need a new roof. I got a fence guy. So not to go too deep, but like this is where like the people that you do transact with, like he's systematic about what it is that you think they're going to do with that house over the years. And that can be your form of how you communicate with them following up. So that can just follow, hey, how's the house? Well as well. Like, don't get me wrong, that has value to it because you're remaining in their life and you're checking it. But 6 months later, and they tell you, like, yeah, we're remodeling the kitchen right away. And if you're checking in, hey, how's the plans going for that kitchen? You need anybody to talk to? I got a great designer. I got a great contractor. Let me know if I can help. See the difference there between like just checking in, which was another Phil Jones thing. Like, don't say that. Don't. What did he say? It's actually funny. Bear with me here. Sorry, I gotta find it now. Yeah, yeah. Stop touching people's faces. So don't I just checking in, following up, stop touching people's faces. Perverted. Game night in Grand Rapids. This guy, I think it was like a big space that he had a line on that he was able to take advantage of to host like a community event of like board games. That was his interest. So the reason I bring it up is like if you have an interest, like go do it for yourself, but then find a way to lead generate and build a database around it. This guy was in the board game. Every Thursday night, I think it was like weekly board game night in Grand Rapids at the whatever factory and built a huge following off of it and did a ton of business on it. So stay on the interest stuff, right? Like if you're a golfer, like if you're gonna golf once a week, anyway, no matter what, like that's your deal. Well, just book a foursome and fill it with 3 people every week. And again, I'm not telling you to pay it or pay for these people, but like if you're gonna do it anyway, like do it to benefit your business. Seniors, find the opportunity, right, and find a way to market to it. But just some ideas. I guess what I wanted to kind of get the wheels turning on is like, A, it doesn't always because those interactions that took place at game night every week for that that's lead generation. Those are conversations. Those are interactions that he's having. So you could, in theory, build a business around activities like that and never pick up a phone to call somebody once. You're gonna have to get creative and purposeful, or commit to the old school type of tactic to find out, how it is that you're going to get into conversation with people. So let's talk about value, right? Like we just went through a lot of it because value is kind of a cliche term as well, to where it's like, okay, I gotta provide value. How do I do that? Like all those examples I just ran through, those are valuable, especially when it's, I'm not into board games, so going to game night wouldn't necessarily be valuable to me, but especially when you're appealing to people that have common interest or common community. Who was here in the business during COVID? So the push for care calls, like how effective was that? people needed it, right? Again, back to the whole societal type thing that's going on, like. It was obvious for us as agents to find a way to provide value by, touching base with our people. Shit. Don't touch base. Don't touch their base. But in their home or just at the start of like, are you okay? Is everybody in your family okay? At the time, it was obvious, and whether it became prevalent in other industries or other companies, other people as well, I don't know, but like it was so effective, and it shouldn't stop. I guess you're really doing one of two things when you're choosing to lead generate directly is like you're either making a care call because that's what it should be. It's like, hey, calling to find out how you're doing. I'm calling because I wanted to see how your kids are doing, or I'm calling to see how the new grandbaby is doing. You're showing that you care. Or it's a direct sales call or a combination of both. And I'm okay with all three of those options. And again, like I can assume that most people in this industry are going to be more comfortable with the care calls system than they are with the sales call. And that's okay. Just do it. What you're going to find is that it's going to come back to you because human nature is reciprocal. Meaning, like, if you're asking about somebody else, they're going to ask about you. And when you get going, understand that real estate's an intriguing topic. So it's just going to, like, how's the market? Sure. How's real estate? Like, you're going to, then you just got to be on your game to, there's your opportunity. Systems, I mentioned it, briefly earlier, but to reiterate, like, have a way to keep track of people so you don't have to remember. Right? So like that, how's a grandbaby? Like have that in command, in their profile. Spoke with them today. First grandbaby's on the way in April. Make a note of that. So like, there's no lead. So like what I would do is like in notes in command, spoke with them, good conversation, having a grandbaby in April, no real estate. Didn't talk about real estate or no lead. Something to that effect. 4 times a year. Maybe you want to be purposeful to like really call them in April, like to time it up when grandbaby's right there. I don't know. Maybe if it's close relationship, like you're sending something.
Like those in my phone, like on their contact, like
Same thing, system.
well, a drain.
Yep.
Like what referral from or
And that
so I can remember.
that's the system. That's what I'm talking about. Doesn't it command phone? My thing with the system is just have it be in the cloud. Right. So like the whiteboard, the day planner, no offense to anybody, but like, if you lose the day planner, you're screwed. It's just not fair with the technology that we have these days to operate that way. Like just have it backed up. So like I love those things that just like I've boomer here. I wasn't sure if I think it's called the Remarkables. Anybody familiar with those? It's like note taking devices that upload to wherever they upload. But iPads work too. But ultimately keep track of your people so that you have an easier way of knowing what to talk to them about when they're due up to talk. So back to that grandbaby example, it's February. MREA tells me 4 times a year I should be in touch with them. There wasn't a lead in that conversation. I want to contact them too much. I don't want to go too long. 4 times a year, once every 3 months by default. So March, April, May. So May 26th, I'm going to put a task that's going to pop up in command, and I'm going to look at my tasks daily because that's my system, and that's going to tell me what to what to do and when, who to contact and when. This way, May 26th, they pop up. Looking at my notes or looking at however you have it set up. Talked to them last February 26th. Good conversation. Having a grandbaby in April. Boom. I know what I'm talking about. Hey, Gramps, how we doing? How's the family? How's everybody healthy? Care calls, right? Because you don't need to be doing that as a professional that's not a family member to these people. And who is doing that? So by you doing that type of activity, you're providing value to their life, to their relationship, to the relationship with you. And the whole notion here is like that's going to allow you to be remembered over time if you do it consistently. If you do it this year and that then either system falls off or you fall off, whatever, and you don't do it again for 5 years and they go to sell for 5 years, then you don't have the right to be remembered at that point. Think of it that way. You have to earn the right to be remembered. Nothing is given to you. So if you're doing this through with care, providing value to the relationships that you have, it becomes a lot easier. And if you're doing it with a system to tell you what to talk about next, or at least where you left off, comes that much easier. If you don't have the system established yet, like that's the benefit of social media, right? Like if you get on this train and want to start calling people on your list in your database, and this is new, that's okay. It's always day one. Go see what's going on, stalk them. Find out what you can. Stuff's updated anyway, and they're constantly posting, and you can see that it's one of the cruise. That was a cruise. No offense to cruise people, some of you heard me say this before, but like cruise people love cruises too, and they want to talk about it. And I'll never go on a cruise because my wife won't, but like I talk to cruise people, like, hey, what liner did you go on? Norwegian, Royal Caribbean? I'm thinking of doing one. What advice would you give? Call me a scumbag, but they're high off the cruise. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to tell people to be liars, but it's an example. So what do we talk about real estate value? Right? Like how am I supposed to provide real estate value? Here's your idea. Now the way that I would structure framework these interactions, if you're gonna reach out to people directly, live communication or over coffee or whatever, right? Start with them always. Do not pick up the phone and they pick up the phone. Hey, Jim, what do you know about your real estate? Like literally that. You know, it's just like, if you do it just like that, where it's just like no pleasantries exchanged. Start with that. Simple, hey, how you doing? Is a starting point, right? But if you could be systematic to where you're bringing it, you know, really intimate to their life and, really making their heart flutter, is that much better for it. The relationship's going to get that much deeper. So if you start the conversation and you get into, um, their personal life and that box is checked, end the conversation with a real estate ask. What was the quote? Your success is a direct correlation relation to the quality and quantity of your asks. Your success is a direct correlation to the quality and quantity of your asks. So stuff that you can ask. You have any real estate plans in 2025? Doesn't get much easier than that. Keep in mind, guys, 95% of the time, they're going to say no. No problem. Keep me in mind if you do. Less direct, same type of thinking. Do you have any real estate questions I can help with? This is less real estate sales, but we talked about it before. Do you have any projects around the house coming up this year that I could provide a referral for? Becomes real estate sales when they tell you, yeah, we're actually thinking of fixing this place up so we can sell it in a couple of years. Boom, lead. Yeah, it'd be great if they're selling this summer, but another thing, I think this was Phil Jones as well. That's my guy. Most people think 30, 60, 90 day pipeline. Say 30, 60, 90 months. Somebody do the math on 90 months. How many years is that? Ish. If you knew, what if you had a system that informed you that these people sell in 7.5 years? You gonna be in business 7.5 years? Plan that far out. That's a lead. Talk with somebody today and, yeah, Junior's in 6th grade now. Wife and I really want to get the hell out of here and get south once he's graduated from high school. That's a lead. May not like it because it's 6+ years out, but it just gave you their intentions relative to real estate, their real estate life. So how well is your system set up? How well is, don't get me wrong, like pipeline focus is definitely something that you want to, you know, as a tool to be able to really focus in on those that you're planning on transacting with immediately and over the course of the next year. But what kind of subsystem do you have to where you're able to never lose an opportunity, even if it's 5, 6, 7 years out? Tax season usually causes a lot of focus on money and investments. Have you ever thought of making real estate investments? There's a timely one right now.
Yeah, makes me think of last year, I helped 4 of my past clients, actually 3 of my past clients, one of a past client girlfriend, so a new person, to reduce their taxes. And that was them calling me. I should be calling all my people to ask if they want help. And that was during a rising market, like things were still high. I
Yeah.
think this year is gonna be probably a little better. If theirs got boosted up in the last few years.
Well, just the topic of financial advocacy for life. If you're the resource for people's financial life and other avenues that you're not the expert for, and not just saying this is a CIA statement, but do not be the expert in financial areas that you're not licensed for. But if you're the resource to connecting them with people that are, and we're just like, without being the expert of giving formal advice, getting them thinking differently about financial elements of their life, you better believe that if you provide that benefit, then when they need something real estate wise, they're going to transact with you.
And it said that just as soon as they brought out the PMA, the tax assessment that they were meeting with, just like, what was it, like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are fighting their assessments and they don't have that documentation.
Yep.
But as soon as they brought it up, that it can't,
Yep.
That's
I
the
think
value.
it's a huge opportunity. I mean, it's, for a lot of towns it just happened, but it's a constant thing in terms of Uncle Sam and the property tax game. So, anytime you see the next like town of whatever got blanket reassessments, they were due. Go through your database, who lived there. Hey, I saw the news. What questions do you have? Like, you're not selling them anything. You're not asking them if they want to sell their house. It's like, hey, what do you need? What questions do you have? I know this is frustrating. How can I help?
I was just gonna say something for the first three questions.
Yeah.
Do you even put those questions on Instagram and Facebook and have like a poll with it? And then everybody that answers yes, I've seen some marketing people do that, I'm like, that is too.
Oh, keep in mind, these can all be text too.
Right, but sometimes, like, if you don't get an answer back, sometimes people are just on Instagram or like whatever and just like.
Yep.
Love the click it.
I get it. I get it. That's good. I think it would be like. No. Hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but if you can't contact the people by text in your phone that you know, they know you. That's what I was saying, say plans or questions, but, you're limiting yourself. Not gonna say you're not gonna make it, but you're limiting your potential significantly. Doesn't get any easier. than that. Would it be okay with you if I send you real estate data and information for your neighborhood? This is my favorite. Would you be interested if I looked at recent sales in your neighborhood and evaluate and see if the estimate that you have on Zillow is accurate? Everybody knows Zillow at this point. Most people know Zestimate. Most people that are homeowners know what their Zestimate is. Again, you haven't asked if they're selling. They're probably gonna say, well, I'm not selling. It's cool. No problem. I love doing this with people because they get a sense of a lot of times that goes places to where now all of a sudden you're doing that kitchen remodel that you never thought you could because we can hook you up with a home equity line of credit lender and provide you the funding to do that if it makes sense. Now they may have just remodeled their kitchen as a result of doing that. Now they're never moving. You better believe if you were the conduit to making that happen, or you were a part of making that happen, you're gonna get their referrals. This was a Bill Jones thing, the last one, that guy. I don't know if this is for you, but the psychology that is. What do you mean it's not for me?
You're letting someone's guard down, you're getting someone's guard down regularly, and that is so important.
Yep.
You probably can tell me that, but hey, random question, like, it ain't random, but it's,
Yeah.
no, he's not calling me to talk about this thing, it just
Yep.
lets people's guard down. Really.
Yep.
And that is very important.
For sure. That but line is the key.
Mhm.
But I also double whammied it. So I don't know if this is for you, but with all the changes going on in real estate, I thought it'd be helpful to connect and answer any questions. You available tomorrow between 9 and 11? Take a quick call. Sorry for going late, but all I got, guys. Find your way. It doesn't have to be, we just ended with a bunch of direct real estate questions. scripts, whatever you wanna call them. Doesn't have to be that 100% of the time or anywhere near it. If anything, 100% of the time, you do need to be making care calls in the sense of like you are calling and letting people know that you care about them. From there, if you have the ability to run a sales business and attempt to sell, you'll be happy with the results, I guarantee it. Finding a way to do that is, you know, having the structure to go at this with, you know, a mindset and a skill set and figuring out what it takes to get there in order to be in a place where it's like, okay, I know what I gotta do today. Got my standards. I'm gonna connect with 10 people on the phone, live. I've got notes on all 10 of these people. And my system's telling me who I need to call. I know where I left off last with them. I know where they're at in life. If not, there's what you need to find out. Is replace like, what are your real estate plans? So just say, what plans do you have coming up? Today. Hey, weather's starting to break. Isn't this awesome? Like I feel like I got a sunburn on my bald head. What are you doing this summer? Got me thinking. People are. They don't want to talk to you either, but they certainly appreciate it. And it makes a difference. That's lead generation. I don't, everybody get up and give me a standing ovation all at once.